Hello everybody, welcome to our Catapult Block of the Month. I'm Karen from Sew and Save, and we're here in my sewing studio today to talk about month 3. We are doing the Catapult Block of the Month, and we get together at Sew and Save the third Monday of every month, and we talk about this and a whole bunch of other new things that are going on in the store. And if you'd still like to join, you can do so. You can come and visit us in the store the third Monday of every month at 10 a.m. Or you can follow along online with us. Every month I do a video and we talk about how to do the block. So if you want to join and do the block along with us, you need the Catapult Block of the Month pack of patterns, as well as the Cat's Cradle tool from Creative Grits. And both of those that you can get right at Sew and Save, and go to sewandsaveofracine.com, type in Catapult and Cat's Cradle tool, and those will come up and you can get those and join us and have fun with us. All you need is scraps, because this is a very scrappy quilt. So if you have a few scraps in your stash, you can do this. So we've already done month 1 and 2. We are now on month 3. So this is what month 3 block looks like. And let me go over what pieces you need to create this block. You're going to start out with 4 gold squares, and the sizes of each one of these squares and rectangles are written in your instructions. So you're going to need 4 gold squares, 4 red squares. From your background, you will need 4 small rectangles and 4 long strips, as well as a brown and blue rectangle to create your catapult block. So once you've cut all those out, come on back over and I will show you how to put this block together. I hope you've been having fun with this. If you have any questions as you go along, stop the video, look back, or you can email, call, or stop in the store. We're always happy to help you. So do your cutting and I'll see you in a minute. This is our block for month 3. As you can see, we kind of are putting together 1, 2, 3, 4 catapult blocks. And in the center, we're making kind of an hourglass block with our brown squares and our blue. So you're going to make 2 sets of Cat's Cradle block, one using blue and one using brown. The red is on each and every corner. So let's get started with that. In your instructions, it shows you to make the blue catapult block first, then the brown. You make them both exactly the same, so I'm going to make all of them all at once. I think you can do it. I know you can. So let me show you how to do it. You're going to take, just as we have the previous months, we're going to take the rectangle of your background squares, okay, and the red squares, and we're going to line them up. In fact, what I'm going to do is, here's my brown and my blue rectangles. I'm going to set those aside. I'm going to put them on here so I can just pick it up and take it right over to my sewing machine. So I'm going to use my design board. My background rectangles, and then my red squares, lay them right sides together and line up those edges, just like we did the first 2 months. Get those all lined up. Alrighty, and then when we sew these together, and we're going to connect these 2 and these 2, they're going to go with the blue and the brown. So right now I'm going to sew 1/4 inch from each edge, press them toward the beige or my background, and then I'll come back to do the next step. As you can see, I have all 4 of my red squares sewn to my background rectangles. When I flip them over, all my seams are pressed toward the background. Now I'm going to take them and line them up right sides together, one red on one side and a red on the other, and line those 2 up and do exactly the same on this set. I'm going to sew 1/4 of an inch from the top on each one of these, and remember to fold it in half and do the little clip to the seam. Let's do that, and we'll be right back. I have both of these blocks sewn together. I made my little clip like we do on each. So these were sewn together this way, made my little clip down to my seam, not through it, but just up to it. And then I took them and pressed my seams toward the background, or towards your background, so that your squares are laying nice and flat. So you can see it's all pressed away from my red squares in the corner. Now we're going to use our cat's cradle ruler and draw our lines. So here's my ruler, and I'm going to have to just jump over and grab a Racine pen and hope that I grab one that works. So I'm going to grab 2 just in case. I'm going to lay one of these on top of my big blue rectangle, and I'm going to lay another one on top of my brown, just like that. Alrighty, they're right sides together. We're going to take, if you remember, our cat's cradle ruler, and we're going to look at the place on seam line. So we're going to be using this section of the ruler that will line up with the seam line on your red squares. Okay, line up the place on seam line right on the seam line of your red squares, and then you're going to draw a line. Oh, this one works. Excellent. It's a good day when you pick up a Racine pen and it works, isn't it? There's one line, and line up the line place on seam line right up against the line that you stitched, and draw your line just like that. This little point should line up right into that corner of your seam line on your red square. I'm going to do the same with the red and blue block. Line up the place on seam line, draw my line, flip it around, do the same. Place on seam line. Okay, and draw my line. I'm now going to go over to my sewing machine and draw right on the lines that I drew. Then I'm going to take them then and press them, and we will use the cat's cradle ruler to square them up. We're going to talk about pressing when I get these done. I'll come back, we'll talk about pressing, so don't press them until we come back and chat. So see you in a minute. Today I'm going to kind of advance you a little bit. I'm going to give you an alternative way of trimming these down using your cat's cradle ruler. So in our instructions, it tells you to trim to finish at 4. So this time when you line up your ruler, you're going to line up your number 4 line with the corner of your red square. Usually what we do is we take these and we press these open, and we trim using the ruler going this direction, and then we flip it. Oops, how about this? And then we flip it and we use the ruler going in the other direction. I'm going to show you a little secret to do it a little bit quicker this time, and you get the same results, and it's going to look beautiful. This time I have not pressed my seams open. I'm going to lay the number 4 on my red square, lining the dotted line that's on the ruler. Remember, we have this little dashed line right here. I'm going to put this up here, and we're going to lay the dashed line on the seams on our line that we sewed, the 4 on the seam line of the red square, and then we're going to trim here and here, trimming through both layers at the same time. Oh, I know. It's going to be awesome. You're going to get the same result by just trimming this once instead of trimming twice. So I'm going to come along here, trim here and here. I've lined up the 4 along the seam line here and the dotted line against the seam that I sewed. And when I open it up, ta-da, it's perfect. You do get those little dog ears on the corners, and I just clip those off as I go along. So what I do is I just kind of lay out all of my pieces just like this. I pick up my ruler. I'm going to line up the 4 with the seam line on the red, the dashed line along the bottom seam line, and trim. I'm going to come down just a smidge here. There we go. That looks good. Trim and trim, trimming through both layers at once. Pick up my ruler, slide it over, line up the 4 with the red, trim on your, and line up the dotted line with your seam line and trim. And one more time, and there you have it. You've got it done. I think that's a little bit faster because you're only trimming once. Now you're going to go and press these open. Now, generally speaking, we are pressing these toward the dark big rectangle or triangle on the side. I'm going to, on the brown ones, I'm going to press toward the big brown triangle. On the blue, I'm going to press the opposite direction toward the little red square. So the blues are going to go toward the red square. The browns are going to go toward the big triangle, and I'll show you why I did that in just a minute. Ta-da! You have just made 2 cat's cradle blocks all at once. So you've got your brown set and your blue set, and you made them both at the same time. Congratulations! All right, so just as I talked about a second ago, the brown I pressed toward my big brown triangle, and the blues I pressed toward the red, small red squares. Because now we're going to put the center of the block together. To do that, we're going to use our cat's cradle blocks, and we're going to kind of switch them around here a little bit, and we're going to make a big hourglass block in the center. So you're going to do a brown and a blue, then set a brown and a blue. I'm going to sew these 2 together first, then these 2, then sew these 2 sets together. So you can see that by pressing those in 2 different directions, this little seam is going to nest right together, right where it belongs. And we're going to stitch down this way. We'll do that, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to finish up your block. You're almost done. Isn't that amazing? So remember, blues go face to face in opposite corners. Browns go to the other opposite corners, and you're going to sew those together. They're going to fit just beautifully. I've got my 2 blocks sewn together, and now I'm going to sew my whole center block together. But before we do that, I wanted to talk just a second about how to press them. She doesn't say anything in her instructions on how to press those so that this goes together nicely. So when I flip this over, what I did is I pressed my seams toward the blue. Okay, on each one, I pressed toward the blue. So this is my blue rect triangle up here, and my blue triangle down here. I press both seams towards that blue so that when I flip this over, those seams are going in opposite directions. This little corner up here, those nest together. This section, you can see the seams go in different directions here. So that nests together, and then my points over here nest together. I'm going to sew this seam and press it, and then we'll come back. I have my block all sewn together. Everything, all my little points match up nicely. I haven't pressed this yet because I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. Everything matches up nice. My center matches up nice. All my little points are nice points, and I've got 1/4 of an inch from each point up to the edge. Now, when I press this, I'm going to press so that you do that little twisty thing that happens in the center of the seams. So I'm going to take this seam and I'm just going to kind of twist it this direction. And when I do that, those little stitches that were at the end pop open, and both of these seams are going to be pressed toward the brown. And I'm going to have a nice little pinwheel thing happening in the center. So it will look like this. Oops, I'm going way too close. So you see my little pinwheel. On this one I press toward the blue, but on this one I'm pressing towards the brown. However it lays the nicest, that's how I press it. So we're going to have that nice little flat section in the center, no big bump. You now have your beautiful center block done, and all that's left to do is add your outer sashings and your cornerstones. So step one is going to be adding your side rectangle. Oops, wait, let's put those little cornerstones on so you can see them. Hang on. There we go, because I'm going to do 2 steps at once. I am going to take, and so these two, actually, I'll just do it 1 step at, no, we'll do it all at once. We can do this, right, girls? We're going to add the 2 side sashing pieces to the center of our block. And to do that, we're going to lay these right sides together, lay that right along there, and right along the other side. So at 1/4 of an inch all the way down. At the same time, I'm going to go over and sew my cornerstones onto the top and bottom sashing. So I'm going to lay those guys right there, and the same along the bottom. There you go. I'm going to sew from here to here and here to here on each one. When I press, I'm going to press out on the sides and toward my longer sashing pieces on the top and bottom. And I'll show you what that looks like when we come back. So here we have those steps all completed. The first thing I did is I sewed my 2 side sashing pieces onto each side of the block, and I pressed them out toward the side, each side. I then sewed on my cornerstones onto my top and bottom sashing pieces, and when you flip those over, I press those into the long sashing strip. I did that because now when I lay this piece on here to sew it on, these 2 seams are going to nest right inside of one another, because on your block they're pressed toward the outside, on your sashing strip they're pressed toward the inside. You're going to go and sew these at 1/4 of an inch on top and on bottom, and you will have your block completed. Once you've done that, I'm going to press so that the seam goes out to the top and towards the bottom. And there you have it, month 3, all done, another beautiful block completed. So when I pressed on this one this time, I pressed these 2 seams going out towards the outside of the block. So this is all nice and flat, and it looks fabulous. I hope yours does too. And if you have any questions, you know how to get a hold of me. You can email me, call me, stop by the store. We are always happy to help you out if you have any questions or need any help. But this is your block for month 3, and we will see you again in April for month 4. Have fun with this and see you soon. Bye.